Happy Friday, everybody. Hope you
Yeah.
guys had an amazing weekend or amazing week and are ready to enjoy an amazing weekend. Super stoked to have Neil Bacon on our call here today. Neil and I have been friends for quite a long time, as well as, I guess you could say, to some degree, drug him into real estate investing. He and I actually worked together for quite a long time, way back in the day. And Neil has just done an awesome job at consistently investing, as well as he's got some pretty unique experiences that he's going to share with you guys today about his what we would consider ups and downs of real estate investing, but ultimately coming out on top. So excited to hear the story. And Neil, welcome to the call, dude. Super stoked to have you. If you don't mind, just introduce yourself. Tell us a little about like what you do and what got you excited or interested in real estate investing, man.
Yeah, totally. So thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I am full-time in marketing. So marketing and like kind of operations. So that's my full-time gig. And then I do some like marketing for like nonprofits and stuff on the side. And I really got into real estate. Well, yeah, mostly because of you. Um, But it's just seeing the opportunity. Like I definitely grew up watching like all the flipping shows and all that. I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then
Yeah.
meeting John and this community was just like, oh, like normal people can do this. I mean, you don't need a ton of money. Like this is great. Um, yeah, so it just kind of really wanted to get my foot in the door just with like my first property was a turnkey rental. So just trying that out and then just seeing how it went and kind of just has grown from there.
I love it, man. And what's like from a real estate standpoint, right? Obviously you've been around it, pretty consistently. Like, what was the reason you decided to pull the trigger and go out and like get your first property? What kind of because there's had to been something that like pushed you over the edge and say, okay, I'm gonna go actually do this.
Yeah, I think it was basically just trying to think about my future and owning my time more and wanting more flexibility of like, okay, if I have rental properties that are bringing in $2,000 or $3,000 a month, like then I have the opportunity to like go part-time at work if I want to, or take a gap and like not really have to worry about things and just get that freedom of having cash flow that I don't have to directly trade like my hours in a day for. Which I think is kind of like a classic answer for a lot of people, but that's definitely what pushed it when I was kind of not super stoked at my job. Um, and then just yeah, having the opportunity come and saved up enough for a down payment for that first property, and then it was just kind of off from there.
Yeah, love it, man. Love it. And let's just get right into it because you bought property before. You've done both turnkey and BRRRR style models. Tell us about this adventure that you had with one of your turnkey properties, where it was, what happened, and kind of where you're at with it right now.
Yeah, totally. So I bought my first property in Kansas City, Missouri, and it came with a tenant, which was great. They were on like a 3-year lease or something, which at the time seemed really good, but there wasn't like built-in increases or anything like that. So kind of being a novice, it was great that I just didn't have to worry about that. Um, and that property was, man, just like headaches for so long. Like the basement flooded, like something happened with the tenant and they were missing rent. And I was really like nervous that I made the wrong decision to kind of like start investing in real estate. Like, oh, maybe I'm not built for this. And I talked to one of my buddies who, oh, Sean Anderson,
Yep.
um, who owns 20 doors, or at the time he did.
Hmm.
And he was just like, man, you're like seeing the worst possible. Like everything's gonna seem so easy after this that like this is kind of good you're getting it out of the way in like your first couple years. Like, yeah, I had this tenant who super nice lady, um, was in a long lease and just ended up having almost like tragedy after tragedy, like lost her job, then her son passed away, and then she got another job, and then like COVID happened and she got laid off, and there's just all these things that really like to me implied a lot more of like the people side of owning property than just the
Yep.
money side of like working with a property manager so like she doesn't get kicked out, and like they knew nonprofits that were able
Yep.
to cover the rent, like all that kind of stuff. Um, but then also just from the whole property side, like having a basement that floods every spring and then having a
I
bunch
know,
of
right?
construction and like putting sump pumps in and all that kind of stuff. And then after her having just like awful tenants that left early, didn't pay, like just took stuff out of the house, like took the mirrors off the wall in the bathroom, like the cabinets. They took like the P trap under the sink. They like took that. Like it was wild.
Who
Um,
takes a P trap? What does one need a P trap for from under the sink? Like
yeah, we could never
where do
figure
you
that
put that,
out.
guys?
So, but they replaced it with like it almost looked like a kid's toy, like a funnel that like expanded. And it was
Yeah.
so strange.
Oh wow.
Um, and
That's
then
nuts.
got a new tenant in there, and everything was going great. And then that property got a phone call early one morning, being like, "Hey, call us back." And there ended up being an electrical fire in the property.
Yep.
I can actually show some pictures of that. I'm able to
Yeah,
share.
share your screen.
Yeah, so this is the first property I bought. And then also, if you hire a professional photographer to go take pictures of a fire property, you get really great pictures like this that are super
Oh
clear.
wow.
Um, yeah, so there was electrical fire back in here is where it started. And like just being on the phone with the property manager, like walking through, they sent like this picture, and I was like, why am I looking at the sky? That's when I called you, John. I was like, what's going? You're like, oh, the fire department like has to do that to get the smoke out, basically.
Yeah, yeah, they
Um,
cut as you see it's a perfect square. So they use a
yeah.
chainsaw to cut the roof open.
Yep. So this whole property was just trash, smoke damage, water damage. And this kind of turned out to be like best case scenario financially, because I know you and I talked a lot about like, okay, like we have the insurance money. Also, I did learn a lot about insurance there and like making sure you get current value coverage and not like just fixed value. Because I
Yeah.
think it was covered to like 125, but the value was 180. So like I missed out potentially on like almost $60,000 of insurance money there.
Yep.
Um, but ultimately decided to sell the property. So paid off the mortgage, and ended up wholesaling the property and then for like 40 and then collecting about 45 from insurance after the mortgage was paid off. So walked away with 85 after this.
Yeah.
Um,
And let's just, if you don't mind, hit pause because
oh
I want
yeah.
to kind of share this. So, this is like worst case scenario for a real estate investor in terms of having what we would call this like a complete loss, right? But this is also why I love real estate, right? Because think through this, right? Let's say you put your money into a stock or something like that. It's not going to come with an insurance policy, right? If the company burns to the ground or AKA goes out of business, right? Or, has a poor quarter or something and the stock fluctuates, your money could potentially be gone, or you could be left waiting for that company and that stock to rebound. In this situation, yes, it was a catastrophic loss. Yes, it was a pain in the ass, right? But the property's insured. So, I'm just going to use kind of round numbers here. Neil had this property insured for $120,000. He had a mortgage on it for, let's call it $80,000. The insurance company stroked him a check for $120,000. He got to keep the house. He had to pay off the mortgage company, which was 80 grand. So from the insurance, he put $40,000 in his pocket. And then he wholesaled this house to a fix and flipper, right? So he basically just sold it off market to someone who's going to come in, renovate it, and either put another tenant in it or ultimately sell it. And he got an additional $40,000 from that. So what did you say? He walked away with 85,000 bucks, man?
Yeah, right around 85.
Yep. So 80 grand, 85 grands that he had in his pocket. And then keep your story going. What did you do from there?
Yeah, so well, the one thing was it sold so quickly that maybe I should have charged more for the property itself. There's
Yes,
some
there's
people
too many
very
interested
excited.
parties too quickly at that for sure.
Yeah, I remember being like talking to you, like, oh shoot. Like,
Yeah.
what? Um, but yeah, just learning about that whole process. So then the property managers are very uninterested in my experience in helping once the property is not creating cash flow, or this
Yeah,
particular property manager. And they also transferred it to someone who was in their first week of property management after the fire, which I don't
that was
understand
nice of
why they
them.
did that. But yeah, that was just a whole another thing of like trying to get a lockbox on, and it was a big thing. But so after that, decided to switch up markets. So Kansas City was really on a run for appreciation at that point.
Yep,
And that was part of the conversation. The decision to sell it was like, that's a lot of months of rent to make $80,000 compared to putting that into different properties. So from there, we talked, you and I, and then connected with Nate and just decided to move to Memphis just for a better price to rent ratio and
yep.
lower entry points. So then I basically turned that property into these two properties. Oh, that's a before picture, but yeah, so turned into two properties in Memphis. So both of those are up and running, and the rents are very similar to what it was in Kansas City. So it's just able kind of to expand out from there. And both of these were Berkey. Light rehabs. Like I think the most like this one, I kind of pushed them to replace the windows and get everything more energy efficient because they're installing central air. So why have kind of old windows there? Then also
Yep.
just kind of safer and better for the tenants long term. Just trying to keep the goal of keeping people there longer by making it more comfortable. And I don't remember if this is something you and I talked about or if it's in the course, but just like the 10-year plan of like what do I want to do in 10 years and thinking about that approach, which was different than the contractor had planned. So it was kind of inserting myself into their scope of work and saying like no, I want to add this, I want to add that, and just making it better for the long run there. um
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that, man. Yeah, you turned lemon into lemonade in this situation, right? We had one property that had a catastrophic loss, but because it was insured correctly, and because you are able to have insurance on these properties, we walked away and we turned it into two more. And will all $85,000 go into both of these properties? Will you have a little bit left over to go out and maybe do more? How's that lining up?
Yeah, so I'll have a little bit left over just from the price point of these and being
Yeah.
able to refi out. I think it's going to be around. I'm in starting the refi process now. Um, but yeah, I'll be able to have a little bit left over and then kind of roll that into the next property and just try to make that cash that I have run as long as it can.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So parlaying into at least two, probably maybe three or four properties, which is absolutely sick. You don't usually hear that when an investment goes south, you actually wind up with more investments. So that's awesome, dude. And what's the goal? Like, obviously you're continuing to buy rental properties, you're in the game. Do you have like a door number? Do you have a cash flow number? Do you have like a total asset value number that you're chasing? What's the goal?
The goal right now is like $3,500 a month just to cover my current living expenses, so I have a lot
Okay.
more flexibility. So like I know like my rent now in San Diego is around that point, so I can just cover that completely.
Yep.
And then just give myself some flexibility on looking for a new job, like if I want to stay on the nonprofit route, um, or whatever I want to do. But that's the goal there is just to hit that $3,500 ish area.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah.
I love it, man. And what's next? So you have these two properties you're finishing up. Are you going to stay in Memphis? Are you looking to go somewhere else? Kind of what is your vision for how you're going to continue to grow the portfolio?
So the plan right now is to try to do one more in Memphis and then probably go back to Kansas City just because that market kind of slumped a little bit and then is coming back up in rents from what I've seen.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, like analysis wise, I followed just a lot of what is in the course here and looked at like rent-a-meter in the neighborhoods. And I knew a little bit about Kansas City already. So probably just return there and spread it out a little bit on that side of things.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you've had a little bit of a bumpy experience with real estate. All in all, it's going to turn out great. But with that being said, for anyone who's, looking to get their first property or looking to jump into real estate investing and kind of like on the fence, is there some advice you would have, looking back, would have given yourself 5, 6, 7 years ago when you started this endeavor that you wish you had? What kind of advice you give someone?
I think learning to communicate very well with property management and like finding
Yep.
a good property manager, because that was something where the first property I inherited a property manager that was
Yeah.
not good. And like I found out there was liens on the property and like these things that should have been communicated that definitely they knew about. And then it's like
Yeah.
I'm getting letters about it. Um, so just and not being afraid to drop a property manager, like just getting out of
That's
that as
fair.
soon as
Yeah, they're
possible.
not your best friend, right? It's not a marriage, right?
Yeah,
It's
like
you can exchange very quickly.
yeah, the guy was super nice, but like not doing a good job. And just communicating, like if you're like I was not happy with the level of communication I was getting from them, so I told them, and that changed things, and not just expecting like I guess being new for sure was like, oh, maybe this is the norm. And then realizing like, oh, if I'm paying them, like they need to kind of do what I want as far as
Yep.
communication goes, or lean towards that way. Um, but yeah, just finding a good property manager and being very open with communication and expectations, I think is definitely something that would have saved me some headaches. Like
Yeah.
all the construction stuff would have still had to happen, but definitely saved some headaches.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, guys, like, from the life cycle of owning a rental property, right? The purchase takes a month, so you're dealing with like a closing attorney for a month. Then maybe if you have a construction project that might be lasting 2 or 3 months, you're dealing with a contractor for 2 or 3 months, and then the next 15 years is the property manager, right? So if the communication isn't there and you don't have a good relationship, you don't feel confident with them, like that's the long-term success of that property is all based around that communication with that property manager. So awesome advice, man. And if someone's sitting on the fence saying, man, like, I don't know if, real estate investing's for me, or, I'm scared, I'm nervous. Like, is there any advice you give them to help them like get off that fence and just go out there and take action? Because, it's obviously turned out really well for you with those bumps in the road, but any thoughts you give to those individuals?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of stick to educating yourself so you start to feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
And that was like, man, I can't even tell you how many properties I looked at like on realtor.com, just trying to
Yep.
learn the neighborhoods and doing the analysis there, and then seeing the potential and then also seeing what's not a
Yep.
potential.
100%.
Because it can be very frustrating to like go into like the MLS or Zillow or something and look and be like, oh, like none of these work. But then
Yeah.
you get into like a Facebook group with a bunch of wholesalers and you're like, whoa, like there's a lot of potential here. And just feeling confident about making an offer or what your numbers are. Um,
Yep.
and just not thinking too far ahead. I think that's where I got hung up and you and I talked a lot about on
Yeah.
calls was like, I didn't even make an offer, and I was like thinking about the construction, and you're like, well, let's see if you can even buy it. Like,
Yeah.
take 2 steps back. Um, yeah, so yeah, I think just that, yeah.
And then on the rental property pro side, I mean, obviously you had a little bit of experience coming into rental property pro, with owning properties previously, but what was some of the favorite things that you got out of the course? How do you feel like that supported you in continuing to grow and get through these bumps in the road, and what really helped you?
I think that it made me very much more confident in the analysis on my own and not just
Yeah,
trusting like the turnkey provider. Because the first property, like I got the Excel sheet and I was like, yeah, this all looks good. Like
this is great.
I don't know. And now when I get those sheets, I can be like, all right, let's look at the neighborhood. Let's look at rental meter. Let's see if these numbers actually make sense because I don't know how much experience a lot of these people have. Sometimes rent numbers get inflated a little bit more
Yeah,
than might actually happen, or their interest rates aren't different. So it's being able to do my own analysis on the property, on my own timeline and not have to rely on like a realtor or them for their information or anything like that. So yeah, definitely the market analysis, the comping, being able to find those comparable properties has been a huge help and just get that foundation because it's pretty, I'm not gonna say it's easy, but once you find a good project manager or property manager, like the construction's super straightforward. It's figuring
Yep.
out you can actually make money. That's the more complicated part. Or the
Yeah,
painful.
absolutely. And the good part is like a lot of property managers, like good ones now have, fully built out in-house construction teams. So if you can find them, create good communication, just as you said, it's like taking on those projects is the simple part, right? It's just
Yep.
finding the team to put in place to manage and take that over. I love that, man. So once these properties, two properties in Memphis are done and ultimately refinanced and stabilized and cash flowing for you, what's the plan? We got any celebrations? We're gonna celebrate this win?
Oh yeah, every time like even just buying them, I like took my girlfriend out to dinner. I was just like, all right, we're doing something. We're going somewhere that we don't normally go. But yeah,
You
I
hear
think
that, guys? That's how you get your significant other on board with buying real estate.
yeah,
Is every time you buy a property, you spoil them. So then they're like, "This real estate thing is amazing," and then they don't yell at you when all the headaches come up.
yeah. And then you can make it a company expense too, because you just don't shut up about the property. It's perfect.
Even better, even
Um,
better. Yeah,
yeah,
we'll write that sucker off. I love it,
yeah.
man. Any other words of advice you give to anyone looking to either come into the rental property pro program or just get into real estate investing as a whole? Anything you'd want to share?
Yeah, I think just don't get hung up on like the details of what you think you know. Like there's a lot of educated people out there, but like my friend Juan,
Yep.
and he wants to get into real estate, but he hasn't even like looked at a property yet. And he's like, man, like I need an LLC, I need this. And it's like, yeah, but you can do that in your personal name and like
Yeah.
set up an LLC in 3 days. Like that's not a big deal.
Yep.
So just kind of like forgetting what you know a little bit and then starting from a point of nothing helps
Yep.
so much because your ego totally gets involved in thinking you know more. And it's definitely got me into like a couple offers that I was like, oh, hopefully I don't get this actually after a week.
Exactly, right? Yeah, and you got to get uncomfortable, right? I know it's kind of, the saying of like, oh, you got, don't stay in your comfort zone, but it's true. Like, everybody that goes through, whether it's going after real estate investing or doing anything in life, right? Like, it's new, it's going to be uncomfortable, right? Making offers or, just, getting out of your own way to accomplish something, right? And just as you said, forget a little bit, right? It's like go into it as a brand newbie and, listen to the professionals and, take advice, keep getting educated, but don't allow your own preconceptions to hold you back, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Well, man, this story is one for the freaking ages. Turning one fire damaged house and parlaying that into 2 to 3 more rental properties. That's a kick-ass way to grow your port. I wouldn't recommend that to
Oh
everyone
yeah, I'm
on how
not
to grow
searching
your
it out.
portfolio, right? We're not sitting here saying that you guys the only way to grow your rental portfolio is to go commit insurance fraud and like burn a house down and then buy 2 more, right? Just want to put that PSA out there for everyone. But man, it's good to see when not good things happen. We still wind up with absolutely fantastic results and. Dude, great job sticking with it. I'm excited to see you continue to grow your portfolio and just glad to know that I've been a part of this journey and the coaches and the team here have been here to support and help and be a little part of it as well too. And guys, this is it. Everyone, we're gonna give Neil a little round of applause for
Congrats,
sticking
sir.
with it
Congrats.
and
Oh, thanks.
taking it on. Well, any Q&A, anything that you guys want to ask Neil about his journey, we'll just take a few minutes. If you guys have any questions, if not, we can end. But we'll check in.
From me, it was a rough start, but what a way to stick it out. Excellent.
Yeah, it was definitely tough tenants and tough property managers are don't make you feel good, but
Yeah, that's
yeah, it
not
got
the it's
smoothed
not the
out
best
eventually.
start way to start the journey. Yeah, man.
Good job.
I love it. Awesome, guys. More of the story from our call with Neil is that, you know, at the end of the day, you just got to stick with it, right? There are going to be tough times. And I say this to a lot of newer investors like, hey, if you go out and buy 10 properties, one of those properties is going to be a raging pain in the ass, right? And we don't know when it's coming. Is it property number one or is it property number 10 or which way in between, right? Neil wound up with it being property number one. That was the pain in the ass house. And that's unfortunate, right? But we understood that concept. Neil was like, hey, we know that's, this is all part of the journey and it will get easier. We just need to stick with it and move through it. And ultimately it turned out really good. So man, thank you for taking the time and jumping on this call and sharing that story. There's probably a little PTSD that you had to relive to get through that, but appreciate you taking the time to share it with us. And hopefully we're all going to be, we'll stick with it a little bit more because of it.
Oh yeah, definitely. There was definitely a big gap of like 8 months probably between the fire and buying those properties where I just was a private lender and loaned that money out. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm not sure about this yet. And then
Yeah.
sitting on calls like this, I was like, all right,
It's time to get back in, right?
yeah,
You felt confident enough to dip your toes back in, right?
yep, exactly.
I love it.
Excellent.
Awesome,
Good
man.
job.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. As always, have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe. Enjoy. Thanks again, Neil. Appreciate you, man. And all you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll
Thank
see
you
you
so
guys
much.
later. Thanks.